And we are live and in color. How y'all doing out there? Welcome to another broadcast of the 13%. We are your hosts, Cynthia McDonald and Richard Graves. Richard, how are you?
I'm doing very well. I see you have enough energy for both of us. Thank you.
Yes, yes. I'm super excited. I'm so stoked right now because we have a great, wonderful, awesome guest that's waiting in the wings. But before we bring our guest on, just a little housekeeping items. Please, everyone who is tuning in, hit the like button on this video. Share this video on your various platforms of social media. Also, hit the subscribe button to YFNA News. That way you can get, and hit the bell too. That way you can go ahead and get notification every time that our show goes live or our sister show In Black and White goes live, so that you can get abreast and get all the content that we just throwing at you. How about that? Just like in your face, like bang. So, all right. So we got all that stuff out the way. So I am really excited about having this guest on. I was just thinking about like all the different things that was happening in this time that we are in. It's a very interesting time. As far as like, what happened with George Floyd, the arrest of Derek Chauvin, all the rioting and the looting and protesting that has happened over this weekend. It was a lot to take in. I know, I don't know about you, Richard, but I know that at one point, like I had to kind of just turn off everything because it was just so much to take in. How did you feel about it?
Well, last week, man, when this stuff had happened, I was very, very, very emotional about it, and I know we've had a lot of things that happened, but this one, just watching the brutality of the situation, it did take me there. It took me to a very, very emotional place, still very angry about it. I'm now directing that anger a little bit better, but I too had to turn off the TV, especially when we started seeing the protesting and of course the looters and rioters taking advantage of it. So it's just watching, it's like watching a train wreck, I guess. It's not going to get better. It's not going to get better before it gets worse, basically.
Right. But I completely feel you on that. Like sometimes, like oftentimes, we usually see the worst of it before we see the better. And this kind of brings us to our guest. Because I was really thinking about a lot of these different interceptions of what's really happening to Black Americans, especially like when we come in contact with law enforcement and how like oftentimes like when we're losing our lives like this is really a violation of our civil rights.
Absolutely.
I was thinking to myself, who better to really talk about this than the guest that we actually have now waiting in the wings. I'm just going to give a very brief introduction. This brother is legendary. He has done so much work with the homeless in California and the Los Angeles area. And I don't know any person that knows his stuff about the 14th Amendment and the Civil Rights Act of 1866 than this brother. And I am pleased as punch to welcome to the 13%, Brother Ted Hayes.
Yay!
Brother Ted Hayes, how are you? Welcome to 13%. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you very much. It's good to have you.
I'm better for seeing you guys. How's that? It's especially you, Black man.
Okay.
As I tell all the brothers out here in Venice Beach when I see them go by, every chance I get, I say, "Hey, young Black man, thanks for staying alive." And they stop, and I go, "My gray beard." Oh, okay, sir. Okay, yeah, thank you, and thank you, Elder. It's amazing to see him snap when you say that to him. Hey, young man, thanks for staying alive. So thank you, brother, for staying alive. Sister, thank you for helping to keep him alive. He and Arthur. How's Arthur? Tell Arthur I said hello, mommy, please.
Arthur, you can tell him now. Arthur's in the chat.
Oh, is he there? Hey, Arthur. Man, hey, man.
The self-proclaimed Pope of atheism.
Yeah. What's up, brother?
Oh yeah.
Nice. Hey, man. I'm glad you're doing better, man. Cynthia is a real charm. We've had several conversations on issues, and I told her the other day, at least the part that I had heard from her, in the context in which we were speaking, sister sounded like a clear bell going off. You know, it was really a joy to my ear to hear her talking like that, because I've always believed, well, it's good to see that the ADOS young people movement, young black men and women, y'all give me a lot of hope and courage. Young sister out in LA, Angela Nirvana. I've been, talking with her and stuff, and she introduced me to Arthur and you, and as I told her, I was so happy when ADOS movement, when y'all came along and began to do this. I personally think that you have the potential of doing things that the Black Panthers only dreamed of doing, folks.
Wow.
So I'm honored that you would allow me to have some input into your movement. So thank you, and I thank God that I'm alive, that I lived this long, 69 years old. I feel like I'm entering into my prime. My best years are yet to come.
I know that's
Amen.
right. I
Amen.
know that's right. Yes. I love that. Love that. So let's just get into it. Let's just go ahead and have this discussion. So
sure.
Let's go ahead and start off with your work with the homeless. Now, as far as like I remember, like you were talking about that you intentionally became homeless. Can you really just talk about that and just, what led you to that decision and the work that you've done so thus far?
Well, it looks like it might be a little frozen.
Yeah. Brother Ted, I don't know, like move your stuff around.
This never happens at a good time. It always happens. There we go. I think it's
okay. There we go. Okay, I think we're starting again. Yeah, Brother Ted, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay, we're good. Well,
yeah, it's a bit. Go ahead.
Back I don't see y'all yet. I mean, I don't see me up here yet, but that's okay. I see enough of me anyway. Back in 1985, I became homeless on purpose and went to live on Skid Row in downtown LA. I literally took the statement of Jesus, Yeshua. I took his statement literally when he said, whoever leaves father, mother, husband, wife, children, lands for my sake will receive in this world 100-fold, in the next world 100-fold. And it took me a long time to wrestle to get myself to go do that, because I was one of these kind of cats, like most of us are good at criticizing what's wrong. I talked about the white people, I talked about the police, I talked about the government, I talked about the jive churches, on and oh my gosh, I was good at criticizing the obvious. And it came to me, I believe, from my God that, he basically, the issue was, Ted, I talk too much. You talk too much. If you think you know so much, why don't you go do something about what you see that is wrong? So I left my family. I didn't abandon them. It created quite a bit of controversy. But I went in faith and lived on the streets of Skid Row. Turned out, I thought it'd be for a few weeks, but turned out to 8 years and then another 13 years with them in what was called the Dome Village. But I had to go and eat and sleep and drink and taste what these folks was going through. And when I got down there, I realized that the vast majority of the men and women on Skid Row were Black folks. And that hit me. And of course, I looked around for all the African American, Negro civil rights leadership, the ACLU, the NAACP, the Urban League, the SCLC, the people. And they weren't there. And so I got to know what was going on pretty good. Became a leader. The people respected me for my work, my effort. At first, they didn't understand, but eventually they did come to realize what I was doing, and they began to listen to me. So we created what was called Justiceville. And we pointed out to them that that it's going to take the Marshall Plan, a nationwide presidentially directed plan to eradicate chronic street homelessness. And not only that, but the causes of it, which you and I know for Black folks, being that we are only 11% of the general population, we are over 60% of the homeless. And I don't know if y'all knew that or not. We are over 60% of the nation's homeless, and that's mainly in urban centers. And here in LA, we are 8 and 9% of the city and county respectively, but in the general population, we are over 40% of the homeless. 40%, and we're only 8 and 9% of the general population. And then on Skid Row, the ground zero over there, we are there. 90% of the people who live in the hotels, motels, shelters, missions, to the sidewalks, 90% are Black men, and almost half of them on parole. Now the mayor, rightly so, and others have said what I have said for 35 years, that homelessness, Black homelessness, is a result of systemic racism from 400 something years of unrequited injustices against our peoples. They didn't want to hear all that. And I said, if you don't put to operation the plan that we're giving to you, you're going to mess around here, let homelessness become such a big issue that it's become a public health and safety matter. And sure enough, good to the word I said, it has become a public health and safety matter, especially in the light of the COVID virus. Because see, what's happening is the homeless are refusing to go get the COVID test. They don't want to mess around. And they say, and I got ears nationwide, and the cat was, we were talking the other day about this, and he was saying, Ted, you know, you're right, because come to find out, across the country, 70% of the few who test positive for the virus show no symptoms.
Right.
It's dangerous. And they know it's dangerous. See, what they want to do, and I said to what you're going to do is you're going to wait till the right storm comes along, i.e. COVID, because the homeless don't want to get in, so if they don't want to go in, we got to deal with these cats. They're going to swoop us up with the National Guard. Y'all get the National Guard in your mind? Police, control. It's a slow process. They're going to take them outside of town, put them in concentration camps indefinitely. Now, I called the White House. I met in the White House with my LA team here twice last year in the White House about the homeless and the potential of disease and so forth, and what to do about it. And at one point I said to the president's staff on the issue, I said that people are starting to talk about getting the National Guard to round the homeless up because they're afraid for their public health and safety, etc., and put them in quarantine. And they snapped at me like I touched a nerve. Like, who told you that? Where'd you hear that from? That's not what's going on in the White House. I said, whoa, slow down, gentlemen. I didn't say the White House is doing it. I said there are people thinking this way, and therefore we need to get out in front of it to prevent that from inevitability. I touched the nerve. And 1 week, folks, 1 week before the virus hit the news, I've been talking with them, right? And I knew that all their staff had been sent home at the White House. I knew this thing was serious. And I said to the White House staff dude, I said, look, man, so what you going to do about the homeless and the COVID out in LA and so forth? And they said, don't worry about it, Ted. We have it under control. I said, don't you think that my team and I should be at the table, that we're behind this whole homeless thing in the city, in the country, and so forth? No, don't worry about it, Ted. We got it under control. I said, all right. Then I'm going to be an activist, and I'm not going to sit here waiting on y'all. And I'm going to be putting stuff out there, saying things. I don't mean to hurt the president or the presidency or you, but I got to tell the truth, what's going on. Y'all know what's happening. And just recently, and I'm going to end up on this point right here, the city of LA recognized that they can't handle this issue, automatically, voluntarily gave in to a consent decree, a federal consent decree, meaning that the federal government, i.e. the White House, is going to take charge of addressing the homelessness issue. And the only thing that the president can do about homelessness, as I said to him in letters, you only have two choices, or three choices. Either you leave the homeless alone in the streets according to the Jones Act and the Boys Act, and don't mess with them and generate more disease, or you use the military and round them up because they ain't coming in willingly, and take them outside of town. And if you don't have an exit plan post the quarantine, sir, you're going to be creating a concentration camp which will destroy this republic. Or you can do what we're talking about. We have an exit plan. And my brothers and sisters, This is Black People's Hour like never before. This is the day that Dr. Martin Luther King prophesied about. This is our moment. Not only is everybody in America and all these white kids talking about the suffering of Black people and Black lives matter, yada, 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 yada. The whole world is watching. I put out a Facebook statement the other day and said, welcome to Hong Kong, USA. Now, the subject that we want to talk about, I want you all to know more about, is this 14th Amendment business and the Civil Rights Act of 1866 business. I'm going to tell y'all something, a quick little brief. This law, embedded within the Constitution of the United States, y'all, it is so powerful that we, as a collective body politic, that's the key now, we can actually tell the president of the United States what he should, can, and had better do on our behalf, how to do it, and when it should be done. We the only people in the United States has that kind of power. It is so much power that when it landed as a bill on the president of the United States, President Andrew Johnson, who got impeached behind this, okay, when they put it on his desk and he read the law intently, he said, I cannot sign this law. I'm going to veto it. And the Republicans said, well, why are you going to sign this thing to help Black people empower themselves? He said, because it gives too much power to Black people. It gives too much, that power. We all got power, too much power to Black people over white citizens. Read it. Now, what does that tell you? We some powerful folks. We just don't know it. Nancy Pelosi knows it. Chuck Schumer knows it. McConnell knows it. Donald Trump knows it. A whole bunch of folks at the top know it. Jesse and them know it. All of them folks at the top know it, but they won't tell you about it. And I'm going to tell y'all something else that you don't know about that you should know about. Did you know that the white man actually in Congress apologized to Black folks for slavery and Jim Crow and asked to be forgiven and asked for reconciliation, in other words, reparations with us? George Bush is quoted in it, and as well as Bill Clinton. They said that generational destruction of Black peoples has caused them all this suffering to this very day, and we better do something about it to save us, to save them and us. There is a law where the white man is trying to apologize. Do you know why y'all don't know about it? It was in 2008. Barack Obama knew about it. He definitely knew about it. But the CBC, they quashed it, shut it down. NACP shut it down. Jesse. All of them shut it down. But you know what, though, y'all? You know what? These white kids, they want to help out, right? And I appreciate them. I really do. And we need to help them. I talk to the kids today in Venice Beach. One thing that they can do, if they want to help us, is embrace this idea of the white man legally apologizing to us for 400 years of unrequited sin or injustice, and get the president of the United States to sign that. That's one of the first things that they can do. And what that does, see, it gives them a ground of unity. It's not a big thing, but it's a significant thing. It'll give them something to unite around, right? As well as our own people. Everybody wants to see the white man apologize by law, okay? Then we take the next step. So there's some more. Also, did you know in 2005 that the Senate passed a resolution apologizing for lynching? Did you know that? Said we're sorry, asked to be forgiven, and what can we do to reconcile? And did you know, and Barack Obama signed it. He actually signed it. But did you know that the African American leadership chose not to tell y'all about it? That's why we're here today, y'all. There's a root to why that young brother got killed out there in the streets. He didn't have to get killed like that. We could have corrected a lot of this stuff a long time ago. It didn't have to be a Michael Brown situation, frankly, or a Trayvon Martin situation for that matter. We could have got out in front of this stuff. And all them brothers died in the hood when young brother Floyd was killed out there. That very same week, 6 brothers were murdered in Chicago and 38 wounded by brothers, and not a word from anybody about that. Happens all the time, and you have to ask yourself, that's a big old pink elephant in the living room. That and the fact that most of the people out there protesting for Black folks are young white kids. They don't talk about that. those two things. Why? Well, I want to be able to share with the ADOS movement as we move along here, how y'all can address this, how y'all can actually bring to heel the president, everybody else out there, and y'all can harness these young white kids and give them something meaningful to do with their lives, instead of around here breaking up stuff in our name, taking our civil rights movement. Y'all, see, let me tell y'all something. Y'all went around when this happened, but ask your mothers and fathers about this. They'll tell you. In the 1960s, they did this to us in the civil rights movement in the 1960s. We was rolling. King was doing his thing, and Roy Wilkins and John Lewis and what's his name, Randolph and A. Philip Randolph and the Jewish Congress. They were Belafonte. They was rolling. All of a sudden, Vietnam jumps off, and the white boys go, hell no, we ain't gonna go. And the cameras and the attention that was on black people and civil rights switched and went over to the white kids. And they literally took the civil rights movement away from us and made an anti-war movement. And Dr. King had to go with them. He took us with them. He took us to an anti-American, anti-whatever it was, and got us involved in that. Why? Because in order to keep some attention on black folks and civil rights, he had to mix with the white kids. You see, and now, a generation later, here we are in our finest hour, and white kids just take it and run off with it. And if you ask any of them, do you know about civil rights? Do you know where it got started? Do you know? Then what you doing out here? Who you doing? What you doing? And see, I don't blame them. I blame these excuse me. Oh boy, I'm sorry. Let me go down. So y'all got me going here. I'm sorry.
You fine, go brother, go.
Let me slow my roll, because I'm really working on my attitude. It's hard. It really is. I eat and sleep and drink this stuff, and I see what's going on, and I know anyway, the point is, it ain't these kids' fault. It's not our young black brothers' fault. Because if you ask the young brothers out there, do you know about the 14th Amendment or the Civil Rights Act of 1860? They don't have a clue. You can ask me about the 13th Amendment. They won't know. What's the 15th Amendment? They don't know. Right. I'm not knocking them. It's just what it is. And you know, our African American leadership, so-called civil rights leaders, I think they don't know either. I really don't think they know either. And I think because they don't know but enjoy the power that we have given them, they want to keep that power. And so they keep the doo-doo stirred up and keep us hopping, and we never come to any conclusion. And so what I like for ADOS, I advise ADOS that y'all, I'm more than happy to work with you and really teach you this law and this power. So that y'all can begin to talk about it. I think that what y'all should do is once you get this together, you organize a march. Not so much in protest, but take your flag and turn it upside down, and you organize a march around the promissory note. We have a campaign I want to kick off in your show tonight called the Promissory Note Campaign, which is really the 14th Amendment Civil Rights Act of 1866. I want you to do that. You should do that, because what happened is y'all will steal the national narrative. Because see, they'll ask Black Lives Matter. I'm not trying to create a division. I'm just saying what's out there. They'll ask them, well, what do you want? What's going on? They don't have a clue.
Right. That's true.
Good point. Okay. Good point.
That's very true. Yeah.
See, we're going to work together here, and y'all going to have a clue. Not only a clue, but you're going to have an objective. Where you want to go, how you going to get there, your strategy, who's involved, and constitutionally, why. I'm going to show you that constitutional language that they have to obey. And see,
so I you know, and perfect segue. So let's talk about the 14th Amendment. I wanted to read a little bit of it because like Section 1 is really kind of, you know, what like really got my attention, especially for what we're dealing with right now. And so just to give context to, you know, That's not the word I was looking for, but whatever. Section 1 of the 14th Amendment says that all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of the law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws.
There's some papers. There's some papers
Mm-hmm.
in the basket of the living room. Would you bear those bring up here, please? Yeah, I heard it. I heard it.
I know you know it.
Yeah.
So talk about that section and kind of like tie it into, you know, some of the things that we're dealing with right now.
To put things in context, there are 3 amendments. I call them the Triad Amendments. The 13th, the 14th, the 15th Amendment. They are interlocked, interwoven, and consecutive at the same time, and successive all at the same time. There is no other set of amendments in the U.S. Constitution like that. That's about us. The 13th Amendment abolished chattel slavery, except in prison. Okay, we'll talk about that in the future. The 14th Amendment is our U.S. federal, I call it super citizenship, black super citizenship, because while all other people have citizenship in this country, we are the only ones that have super citizenship, by which if we organize, we can actually tell the president what he can and cannot do. We can mobilize the military if we need it for our protection. And I'll talk about that in the future. So, and then the 15th Amendment, thank you. And the 15th Amendment is our right and duty to vote and to govern, which is what Abraham Lincoln was assassinated for. He wasn't assassinated for freeing the slaves. I can't find it. I'll deal with my memory. But he was assassinated for giving us power. So the 14th Amendment, Section 1, actually comes from something called the Civil Rights Act, the 1866 Civil Rights Act. That was the first Civil Rights Act of the new United States of America. Born in 1776, 90 years later, they create a Civil Rights Act specifically and only for the people who were chattel slaves and their descendants, and nobody else. Because everybody else in America already have civil rights. It's called the Bill of Rights. It's called the Declaration of Independence. So they don't need civil rights. Hispanic Latinos do not need civil rights. Asians don't need civil rights when they come to this country. These so-called minorities, they got civil rights. Civil rights is specifically for people who were slaves, and that's us. Now, so the 1866 Civil Rights Act is actually where the 14th Amendment, our citizenship, actually comes from. When they passed the 13th Amendment, the Republican architects said, okay, these people are free in America. They're no longer slaves, but what are they? They're not citizens. What are they? So they decided, well, if they're going to get anywhere in this country, we'd better make them citizens. Or they thought that, you know what, they may be smarter than what we think, and they may organize themselves into a nation within a nation. There's nothing we can do about it. Or it was both. But nevertheless, they said, okay, let's make them citizens. So they came up with a congressional act where there's 10 sections in the act. If you go to the THE 14th.us, the THE 14th.us, the 14th.us, you'll see all the things I'm talking about. But there's 10 sections in that law. I won't go into them right now. Those 10 sections is what caused Andrew Johnson, the president, the Democrat president who took over Lincoln's place. That's what caused him to say this is too much power for these people. But then later on, the Republican architects thought this way. They thought, wait a minute, this is only a congressional act. A future Congress may come along one day, and they may want to repeal the act. Well, they said, well, we got to do something. And so what they did to prevent our citizenship from being taken from us was they did what my mentor taught, codified, embedded, buried the Civil Rights Act of 1866 into the Constitution, which was the 14th Amendment. How do I know that? Well, one, they taught me that, and two, I studied it, and it doesn't make sense. Section 1 of the 14th Amendment, Section 1 of the Civil Rights Act of 1866 are identical. They both say anyone born in the United States and on and on. The difference between the two is that the Civil Rights Act of 1866, Section 1, goes in greater detail and identifies who is being talked about in Section 1 of the 14th Amendment itself, when it says all people born. The Hispanic people and Asian people who come here and have babies who are here either legally or, well, the folks come from south of the border. They come up here and get pregnant, or they come pregnant, have the baby within the borders of the U.S. That's a U.S. citizen based on the 14th Amendment, based on a statement. Asian women are coming here to L.A. where they have babies, pregnant, have babies and stuff. Pregnant, have babies, of course. They have babies, and those babies, I know, and those babies become U.S. citizens.
Right.
That's the misunderstanding of that law. Civil Rights Act of 1866, Section 1 specifically says it is the people of involuntary servitude. It is the colored people. It is the people who were left out of the Declaration of Independence. Because when you go through the rights in the first section, everything, when it says in the Declaration of Independence, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and they are endowed by the Creator with certain inalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. We tend to focus on life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, but there were some other ones, and those other ones, you'll see them in Section 1, where you have the right to make contracts, to sue, to all these things. And then it ends by saying, folks, it ends by saying this, very powerful. This is what blew Mr. Johnson away. It says that we ought to have a citizenship as is enjoyed by white citizens, as is enjoyed by white citizens. And as a people, folks, we have never experienced what our white brothers have experienced. There's a talented 10th. You and I think we are part of the, I would say we're part of the talented 10th. You know, we get up and go no matter what the obstacle is, but the majority of us, we've been locked out. See, and we've never had that. And I'll tell y'all why we've never. Hold on, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me close this part of the 14th Amendment. Okay, so basically, what these architects did with this law. Look at the 14th Amendment and the Civil Rights Act of 1866, not as two different laws, but as mother and child. Mother and child. You see, the Civil Rights Act of 1866, I say, is the progenitor and the identifier of the child. The 14th Amendment, it tells you who it is, and it tells you what it's supposed to do and what its life is going to be about. Here's another analogy for you about the 14th Amendment and the Civil Rights Act of 1866. The human body. You have the skeleton, or the anatomy. You have the skeleton, you have the sinew, the muscles, the internal organs, the brain, all that stuff you don't see in here. Then you have the skin. The skin is the 14th Amendment, and the Civil Rights Act of 1866 is the body. Especially, y'all, as you begin to study it, each time I study it, it becomes more expansive and understanding to me. So here's one more for you. A house. You have the key to the house and you have the deed to the house. The key to the house is the 14th Amendment. The deed to the house is the Civil Rights Act of 1866. Why? Because it describes the owners of the key to the house. It doesn't describe Chinese. It doesn't describe minorities. It doesn't describe Hispanic or Latinos. It doesn't describe immigrants. The only ones it describes are the people, the Americans born in this country upon whose backs the immigrant nation is built. That's the 14th Amendment, 1866 Civil Rights Act, y'all. I know that's a lot to lay on you right now, and there's so much more. But you want me to get Dr. Claude Anderson?
Yes.
Yes.
That's my buddy, my friend, man. He was one of my board members on an organization we had back in the day called Choose Black America. And he's very hip to this. He's one of the few brothers hip to this. And he and I have talked about it. But most people, I come across white and black civil rights attorneys. And I've asked them. I was at a dinner one time, luncheon, with a friend in Beverly Hills. You know, with cats like me don't get to go in and say somebody's chest. But you don't ask how much the meal is. You just order.
No.
And so I'm sitting there. I'm sitting there, and this dude, he's a professor, man. He's a big time Beverly Hills lawyer. I just thought I'd play with him a little bit. And I said, so what do you think of the Civil Rights Act of 1866? He did what? Because he had been bragging to me about all his lawyerly stuff. I said, what about the 14th Amendment? Isn't that the one that, and he chopped it up. And I said, tell you what, you go study that and we'll talk. He never got back in touch with me. I talked to black attorneys. They don't know it. I'm not mad at them. When I talk to young people about it, when they get it, you can see a pride begin to come into them. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. Do you think?
Let me clear something up for y'all real quick. Because you're gonna get it from people who believe that anybody born in the United States of America is a US citizen. That's because they don't understand. You know, chattel slavery is different than all the other slaveries. Chattel slavery simply means that not only are you living human property, but if you have a baby, that baby is not yours. As much as you may think you love it, that baby belongs to the master. That's chattel slavery. You live a slave, you're born a slave, you live a slave, you die a slave. You know nothing but that. That is ingrained for 245 years on the walls of our DNA. You cannot help it. That's why they call it the peculiar institution of chattel slavery. It was like baseball, football. You don't question it. And we accepted that, and they, the masters, accepted that. This is the root of systemic racism that these white kids and these black kids are out there thinking that they're fussing about. They don't even know what it is, but here is what they're fussing about, because that issue has never been resolved.
Right.
So when it says so we're born slaves, we have that mindset in us, and even though we're born in this country, and this is the controversy, born in this country because the slave owner said these people are our property forever and ever and ever. And the non-slave owner said, well, no, we're going to make a law to change that, where they are born in this country, just like you, white men, are born in this country. They have a right to be a citizen in this country. And that's why they had to write that law. That law was not for all of them. Now, however, folks,
Oh no.
We might have to. Hopefully, he can get back on.
Yeah. Brother Ted, if you can hear us, you may have to like jump off and try to rejoin or unmute your mic again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
yeah.
There you go.
Okay,
there you
great.
go,
Go.
Okay.
All right.
Civil Rights Act. Shoot. Pardon me, y'all. Um,
Oh, you were talking about um, as far as immigrants utilizing that the Civil Rights Act and the 14th Amendment in order to establish themselves as citizens when they have, or to
right,
establish their
there you
children
go.
that they have here as citizens.
That's right. Thank you very much. Because they have all customs, immigration, and what's the other one? Immigration, customs, and the other one.
It,
Congress has regulated how the immigrants, people who come here willingly, this is how they get into the country. They become citizens that way. We don't become citizens that way. When they do become a citizen that way as an immigrant, and they have a child born within the jurisdiction border of the United States, that child then becomes a U.S. citizen. You understand that? That's
Yeah.
that's that's how they get in on that born thing. But apart everything else, that's about us. That's all about us. And the objective. Are y'all clear on that? Any questions or comments?
no, you
No, no,
keep
you're
going.
good.
I'm
We
listening.
could. This is right.
I'm listening.
Here's another
Yeah.
point. Here's another point. On the promissory note, because we're launching that tonight, the promissory note campaign. The objective of the promissory note campaign is to get every U.S. black citizen aware of this law, this promissory note. Whether they accept it or reject it is not our concern. I think that people should have a fair shot at this. If they want to share it with everybody else, that's on them. But my objective here is to make sure we all know about that law across the country. And that's what the campaign is about, the promissory note. Now, where'd that come from, the promissory note? Anybody got any idea? Raise your hand if you know where the promissory note comes from. Never mind. The promissory note, the promissory note comes from I Have a Dream by Martin Luther King, dated August 28th, 1963, 54, I think it is, something like years ago. He said in I Have a Dream, right off the top, he talked about the 100 years post the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation, the Negro is still not free. He repeated that 4 times. Then he said, in a certain sense, we have come to our nation's capital to cash a check. And he says that check is the promissory note, and to take it to the Bank of Justice and get it cashed. And on he went with that, right? So about last year, I was talking with one of Dr. King's schoolmates who lives out here in Sacramento. They call him the Dr. King of Sacramento. He went to school at Morehouse with Dr. King, and they roomed together. And his name is Marion Woods. He just passed away a few months after he and I talked. My young brother from Sacramento, Aaron Enough, young brother up there, when I was teaching him about the 14th Amendment, says, man, you need to talk to Mr. Woods. So he put me in touch with Mr. Woods. And Mr. Woods and I talked a few times on the phone. And I said, Mr. Woods, will you support the campaign, the national campaign to educate all black citizens about our civil rights, power, and promise, and so forth? He says, yes, I will. I said, sir, can I ask you questions? Yeah. I said, when Dr. King said back then, promissory note, were y'all talking about the Civil Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act of 1866 and the 14th Amendment? He said, young man, that's exactly what we was talking about. We just didn't know quite how to proceed forward. And now's that time. Now check this out. Why I'm not mad at my people. We shouldn't be mad. It's just something that happened to us. When the Civil War was over and we was free and they issued the Civil Rights Act of 1866 and then ratified it in the 14th Amendment, which permanentized our super citizenship, 99% of us did not know how to read. We know how to read. And it was always a mystery. Why would the Democrats and the KKK be so hard on white Republicans for going down south trying to teach the free slaves how to read? Because they lynched these white boys, man. They burned down our schoolhouses, kill our teachers. What were they afraid of? What they were afraid of was what Andrew Johnston was afraid of. That power I talked with you about before. But nevertheless, we were uneducated. We didn't start reading as a people, from what I can understand. Richard, from what I understand, you're a historian, and so you correct me here, because I'm a lay guy. All right. From what I can understand, we didn't really. There was different of us reading the Town of the Tenth and all that. The masses of us did not really start reading until 1952. What was that? Dwight David Eisenhower. 1954, Brown versus the Board of Education. 1957, Dwight David Eisenhower sent the military into Little Rock, Arkansas Central High School with loaded weapons. White boys would shoot white guys if you stop these black boys from getting an equal opportunity, and students get an equal opportunity as white students. Article 1, Section 8 of the Civil Rights Act of 1866. Now, here we are 50-something years, 60 years later. I've talked to black educators. Like I said, I'm a layman. I said, I don't do real surveys, obviously. But I said, other than Town to 10th, from what I can understand, what I've read, is it true that black folks as a whole, we have about a 4th grade reading mentality and comprehension? He said, yeah, it's about where it's at. Yeah, it's about where it's at. I said, well, that's good. That's all they need. That's all we need right now, okay? If they could just simply understand this power of who they are, especially these little young brothers and sisters seeking the thrill and seeking power, when they understand the power that they have in their hands, when they unify around this point, shoot, they're gonna want more education. They're gonna want to discipline themselves, because now they have a reason to be here tomorrow. Right now, these kids ain't got a reason to be here tomorrow. They don't have a reason. So whatever. That's why them brothers, in my opinion, Brother Richard, my opinion, why they walk around with their pants hanging off their ass. I don't care. How's that song go? How's that song go? I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. But see, even the brothers and sisters, this is my belief, even the brothers and sisters on crack and drugs, all mucked up, whatever. Crips, Bloods, whatever. I don't like that fool. That nigga, he ain't. When every U.S. black citizen, or enough of us, know who we are in the U.S. Constitution of this nation, when we learn that, what's going to happen is suddenly, from the lightest skinned brother, sister, to the darkest, to the richest, to the poor, from the preacher to the death row, we will be technically united as one people, a multicultural people, because we all didn't come from Africa, one tribe. We came from all kind of folks who didn't like each other.
Absolutely.
That's how we got that shit. Okay, that's how we got that shit. Okay, and we came off that shit pissed off. Not that crazy white boy. We scared of him. Okay, to put somebody. Anybody put people this, they crazy. But if we can get past that white boy, get that nigga that got me on this ship, I'm gonna do it. How do I know that? Look at Chirac. Look at Detroit. Look at what's been going on in our country that's caused the KKK to put their sheets back on their beds. KKK ain't never come near. That's why you don't hear nothing about them. Would you say something if you were a KKK? Let them niggas kill each other. Damn, we didn't know we had it so good. Right? We'll yell at the police. We'll yell at white folks. Black lives matter. White folks, yes, we know Black lives matter, but y'all don't seem to think Black lives matter, though. What are we supposed to do here? Okay, we'll get out. We'll tear some shit up. We'll march. We'll hold your signs up. But when y'all gonna stop this shit and get it together? We see we ain't stupid. But we're gonna play political correctness and pretend. See no evil. Was it hear no evil? Speak no evil. See no evil. Hear no evil. Speak no evil. Ain't gonna say nothing. But you know what, y'all? I am very hopeful. I have not been this hopeful. I'm so hopeful because we have an army of literally tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of young, smart, brilliant white people that are waiting on us to show them what to do. You got liberal commentators on TV and the conservatives and the president. Everybody's thinking about us. This is our moment, ADOS. That's why God sent y'all. I know y'all believe God. You don't believe God. You believe God, but you don't believe God. But that's okay because
I do. I do.
Right, no, yeah, that's right. You believe God, I don't believe God, but that's cool.
because we are united where? In that 14th Amendment. I respect you as a black super citizen. You ain't my brother. Not yet, because I don't know you. Just because we look like don't make me brother or sister. We played that term in generalities. But we made a brother sister. Hey, my Hotep, my brother. Yeah, all respect, man. Like strangers. I think we should respect one another. 3 weeks later, man, that nigga ain't no good. Man, I found out that nigga ain't nobody. What I'm teaching, what I'm learning here, is if we get off of that monolithic idea just because we black and came on the slave ship together that we are one people, that ain't true. We can ride in a Greyhound bus from here to San Francisco. Okay? That don't make me know you. We just rode the same bus. Same here. But once we get this mindset into our people, once we get that set, then what'll happen is all these other things will be automatic. And I'll always, from now on, treat you with respect as a United States federal super citizen. And as we work together on this and move on this, I get to know you from that foundation. Oh, man, okay, I'm cool with you. We're brothers, we're sisters. We got that now. But right now, we don't. Otherwise, we would not be killing each other and distrusting one another. We can have our own Hollywood. Black folks talking about, man, the white folks in Hollywood are racist against black people, man, because they never bringing up black folks up for Oscar. Fuck Oscar.
I agree.
We have our own. And you know, we have our own awards. Do you know that white folks will break the door down trying to come over there and watch and see what we're doing? That's what happened to professional baseball with black folks. I love Jackie Robinson. Don't misunderstand me, okay? Well, what I'm getting ready to say, that was a mistake for him to go to the baseball league. He should have stayed. All them brothers should have stayed. They should have stayed. And to this day, we would dominate baseball, football, basketball, Hollywood. What happened? Well, as Malcolm said, you had the wool pulled over your eyes. You've been hoodwinked. You've been bamboozled. It's Malcolm, you just a racist. You don't want to get along with white folks, and we trying to work with the Democrats to have a civil rights movement. Malcolm said, how y'all gonna have a civil rights movement with the devil? These are the people who held you as chattel slaves. These are the people who are hitting you upside your head with axe handles and sickened dogs and water hoses on you. How y'all gonna? They said, Malcolm, you racist, man. Malcolm said, I tell you what, man, we'll find out. One generation later, Malcolm X was absolutely correct. Don't misunderstand it. I'm not saying we should not be integrated. Hey, I'm all for that. But the way this thing went down, we got bamboozled. But again, I'm not blaming nobody. All I'm saying is, okay, it is what it is. This is what it is. Let's realize what we have in our hands now. The moment, the time, America has never been in this fix in its life. These white kids doing more burning we black folks could have dreamed of doing when we went off. Fine. Now let ADOS bring this to some sort of a sense and give it some direction and give it a plan and a strategy. And let us begin to call for a united body politic of leaders, not people just talk, but some leaders who are willing to sit down, if necessary, travel, and let's build a black manifesto. What is it that we want? How do we want it? When do we want it? Dr. King said, when you go to the bank and you tell the bank clerk, look here, I'm Ted Hayes, and I got $20 trillion in the bank, and I want to draw some cash out. And the clerk says, oh yeah, Mr. Hayes, nice to see you. Thank you for coming back in. Can I see some ID? I don't have my wallet right now. I'm sorry, Mr. Hayes. You know, until you can show me some ID, we can't touch the money. I have to go home, get my ID, come back. Bing! Hello, Mr. Hayes. Okay, and how would you like that money? What increments would you like that, sir? You see, that's where we are as black, especially now, y'all. Think about it, Professor. Think about it. All the movements of the past for us and about us. Everybody's saying, we ain't never seen nothing like this before. I'm talking white folks, commentators. We ain't never seen nothing like this. What they talking about? They ain't never seen white kids do it like they came close with Occupy Wall Street. They came close, but that was for them. This time, it's all about us. And one last point on this point here. You know what not troubles me, but gives me a little pause and soberness is I feel like there's other people in this country, black men and women, who are far more educated than I am, have more money, more influence, have the whole appearance, the physical dress, the letters behind the name, much smarter than I am. And I'm thinking, in all the elites, I'm thinking, where are they? When will someone speak up? And it's come to me, you know what? What you waiting on? What you waiting on? And so I've had to work hard on swallowing my pride, because it's very difficult to be so sure of yourself that you would do things like go out and fly a flag upside down every other day and talk all that noise and look like a fool. Other things like that. But that assuredness also borders on the line of ego tripping, narcissism, extreme narcissism. And that's a very difficult struggle, personal struggle. And this is why I always tell people, please learn this information. Please learn this information, because it just can't be one voice out here. Let's not make that mistake again. We should learn from our forefathers. When they took Malcolm, they took the movement. Don't let it be when they take Ted, they take the movement. Let it be, man, you better not take him. You take him, a bunch of others are going to stand up in his place. In fact, we already standing up. I can tell you what he's telling you. Shoot, I can tell it better than what he's telling you. See, that's what we need, a broad base of everybody saying pretty much the same thing. Now, I'm not trying to say that, listen, if your issue is dealing with gangs or the elderly or education, hey, all that is good. All that is good. Go do it. All I'm trying to say to you, my black peoples, here is the currency by which you carry out your just cause for our people. We have been in a war where we're throwing spitballs, sticks, rocks, and stones and getting our heads beat in. We're not getting anywhere because we don't know who we are nor our power. I'm ready to put within your hands a weapon I call the AK-14th Amendment, okay? Where I'm going to show you how to use it and train you how to use it and the target. We've got to have that kind of currency and power. When you go to the supermarket, everything is there for you. Take anything you want. But you got to have currency to come out of it. This is the currency I want you to get. I'm not trying to be a leader. I'm a consultant. All of you leaders out there, you really cannot lead black people. You really cannot conversate and negotiate with the president or the White House or the federal government or the police if you don't know who you are, if you don't know what you represent. And they can feel that from you. You just be up there whooping. You go, okay, we got to tolerate this. Oh, all right, all right. And they're going, okay. Why don't you think things don't ever change? Because we ain't making no sense. You see, but we're going to change all that stuff. We're going to make sense. You know, when a plainclothes officer walks up to you, an FBI agent to question you, the first thing they do is this. Hi, I'm at the FBI. My name and picture. You talk. Every time I write letters to the president or anybody now, when I open up and speak to people and do things, I start off with, hi, I'm Ted Hayes, 14th Amendment, federal super citizenship, a black super citizen, by the law of the United States Constitution. See, and if more of us start doing that, we have an automatic unity, no matter what we're doing out there. But we all have the base that we. It's like the Torah and the Tanakh of the Jews. I consider myself a Jew. I understand this. There's so many kinds of Jews, and they fight with each other. I mean, not even so much of a doctrine, but ethnicity. And they go on. But yet, they are all united behind one thing. It is the written scriptures, the Torah, the Tanakh. We don't have a Torah Tanakh, but yes, we do now. We're going to take the United States Constitution, the Civil Rights Act of 1866, our national birthright, our national certificate, our citizenship, and we're going to, the 14th Amendment, we're going to take that, and that's going to be our focal point. That's our foundation. We branch out. How's it go in sports? Boys, girls, team, back to the basics. Back to, oh, check this out. Check this out. This is why I be getting hope. Even though things get pretty dark sometimes, I try to get hope. Check it out. Back to the I Have a Dream. I know Alveda King. She and I are friends, and she's been waiting on me to give her the word. I haven't done it yet because I said, she said, all right, Ted, because I was chewing her and the black conservatives out over there in Washington. I laid them out one day, so she called me, and she said, all right, Ted, look, when you're ready, you let me know, and I'll raise my group, and we'll get involved with what's going on. I lost my train of thought again. What was I going to say? I'm sorry.
Dr. King, what he said.
I'm sorry, I lost it. My bad. But anyway, this is the unity that will bring our people together, and I believe this is our moment. This is our hour. This is our time. Comments, questions?
Richard.
Well, there was a lot that was touched on. I found it very educational and very informative. And there are a few points that you had made that stuck out that I believe that we as Black people should latch on to. And the primary one you made is no matter what work you're doing, Group X Clan and Grand Verbalizer Funky Lesson Brother Jay, one of the rappers, he had a line. He would say, "Are you working to raise the flag?" And what he meant by that was no matter what lane you're in, education, finance, social work, dealing with law, whatever it is you're doing, if you're working towards the objective of the betterment of the group, then keep pushing and keep doing that. Everybody's not going to be in the same lanes, and we might not all agree about the same things, like the metaphor, the analogy you use of the Jewish people. You're right. We may not all agree about the same things. We have our divisions. Some of us are Christians, some of us are Muslims, some are atheists, some are Hebrews, some are Republicans, some are Democrats, some are independents, some are from the Midwest, some are from the South, some from the West Coast, East Coast. We got differences, and all people groups do, but we do have to have a unifying principle, and that should be, wanting to see us proceed and get better generationally. And you're giving foundational work, because the other point that I think that you have made a very good point at, it comes down to the whole public policy aspect. Right. You can have people, and I was watching the protests, and I'm watching the young people going up in the police officer's face and yelling, and I'm like, what are you talking to him for? He can't change a thing.
He can't do it.
Right, he can't do nothing.
He can't change nothing. Nothing you were talking about. Yeah, no point you're making.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I understand people want to feel heard. Don't get me wrong. I understand the psychological component to that. But at the same time, there has to be voices out there directing that energy towards positive public policy in order to get the change we want. I was telling a friend of mine, we were talking, and I said, he's talking about the protests, and I said, what's the definition of insanity? And he said, what? So the definition of insanity is to do the same thing and expect different results.
That's
So
right.
let's talk about what is insane.
That's right.
Ever since Rodney King, when I was a young man out in California in the Marine
Ah,
Corps,
you
I
were
was
here.
there. Yeah, I was there for the riots. I was at El Toro.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing: we protested. People tore up stuff then.
Mm-hmm.
People, when Michael Brown got killed, people
Mm-hmm.
protested, tore up stuff then.
Mm-hmm.
Eric Garner, people protested, tore up stuff. Um, Freddie Gray, protest, tear up stuff. Laquan McDonald, protest, tear up stuff. Sandra Bland, protest, tear up stuff. We do this cycle, and we should realize by now, nothing has changed. We can
It's got worse.
continue to do that, but obviously, and if we continue to do it, nothing's going to change because you cannot do the same things and expect different outcomes. The only thing that we can do is try something different. And like you're saying, we have to get with the foundational understanding what is owed to us, who we are in this country as citizens, that
Right.
we do have inalienable rights that are guaranteed in law, and stand on that and demand accountability from the people that we're putting in these positions of power that we're electing. Demand that accountability and say, hey, this is who we are. This is what we deserve. You're not doing any favors to us. You're not giving us special rights as some white nationalist groups like to act when black folks want regular rights, that we're asking for something special. We're not begging for something that is not our birthright. We're saying this is who we are. We are citizens. We're not guests in this country. We're not an immigrant group in this country. Don't compare us to an immigrant group in this country. We've been here as long as the Brits and the Dutch and the Scottish and the Irish. We've been here as long, if not longer, than some of those groups. And the reality is, this country was built on the backs of our ancestors. So
That's right.
this is who we are.
That's
This is who
right.
we are. And these young people need to understand and embrace that. They're out there protesting, but where they're going to be in November when it's time to vote. And more importantly, you know, I hear black people talking all the time. My vote doesn't count. It don't count. I said, man, people are spending millions of dollars for your vote. If it didn't count, they wouldn't be putting that money out there.
That's
And the
right.
fact is, our ancestors were stopped from voting after the Civil War. You know, they were stopped from voting by men with guns and burning crosses, and they still forced through, voted, elected black members to state houses. I believe the first black person elected to the actual House of Representatives was during that time. All right. They did that. Our ancestors did that. And we over here talking about, well, our vote don't count.
Yeah.
They don't have to have one gun, one cross burnt. We just do Jedi mind trick. Tell them it don't work and they won't do it.
Yeah.
So brother, I appreciate the wisdom that you gave.
Yeah.
You gave a lot of equipment. You gave a lot. There's a lot for us to talk about, a lot for us to think about the things you said. And like I said, it was all wisdom. And whether people agree 100% with you or not really isn't the
Irrelevant.
point because, yeah, it is irrelevant because overall, you made your point. And the point is, you're right. We don't know each other. There are divisions that we have, but we need to have that unifying principle. We need to know who we are. And we need the person because we can get angry and keep yelling at police. Every time I watch the news, I see that. That's turn it off. I'm like, because what do you think you're doing differently than how many times we've done this before? We've done this dance so many times. And the only thing we end up with is neighborhoods, and let me be clear. I know the protesters are not the same people as the looters and rioters.
Right.
So at some point, though, the protesters have to realize, hey, maybe we shouldn't do it this way, or maybe we should do it between daylight hours. And maybe we should get a couple central people in Chicago and New York so our central leadership can say, hey, no, this ain't us. And we don't support this. So we can get past that narrative, because ultimately it forms as a distraction from the point you're trying to make. But again, more importantly, directing that energy towards a public policy purpose and predicating that on the rule of law and the law of our country, which is the Constitution, and saying, hey, this is not something special. The man who was killed, George Floyd, he was deprived of his inalienable right of life.
Life.
All
Yeah.
right, he was
Yeah.
deprived of his rights. We talk about let's get the federal government involved. It's a civil rights. The question is this a civil rights violation? Yeah, it is. He deprived him of his life. He is a public safety official, a public safety person, sworn to serve and protect, and he kills. That is a violation of that man's not civil rights, inalienable rights, the rights that he has as a citizen. We're not guests in this country, and we need to stop letting people treat us as if we're guests or compare us to immigrant groups. We have a different history than any immigrant group that has come to this country. And don't get me wrong, if you're an immigrant, you come to this country to do well. I'm glad for you, and I'm not hating on your success or hating on your story. But it's oftentimes people in those immigrant groups. I don't know how many times I've had Asians or Latinos or even some Black Africans, criticize African Americans. Well, why didn't you pull yourself up by the bootstraps? I came here from this poverty and I built this business. So, man, we got a different story. We got different situations. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Dr. King said, it is a cruel thing to tell a man to pull himself up by his bootstraps when he is a bootless man.
Amen. And seeing what these immigrant groups don't understand is they come to this country, they're given bootstraps when they get here. Now, I'm not giving the whole boot. They're given the opportunity to do some things.
I was actually about to go on Amazon.com and go order my bootstraps and see if they will come by like 2 days later. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'll tell you off air. You just gave me an idea for ADOS. I'll tell you off air. I'm done with it. Go ahead, brother. I'm sorry.
Okay. But no, I mean, I'm not going to ramble any further. I'm just going to say that you did make some excellent points, some stuff that I'm going to take and utilize in what I do. What you said about Hollywood, I've been saying that for years. I'll never forget when all the Black folks was waiting for a Black Disney movie, a Black princess is what they were waiting for.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at people like, is you serious? All right, you're waiting for Disney to give us a Black princess.
Mm-hmm.
Why aren't you Spike Lee or Oprah or Michael Jordan or whoever got the Bill Cosby at the time? All these people, all this money, you can produce an independent film pretty quickly. I mean, you've produced films and we've gone and supported. Spike Lee has. We went to go support Coming to America in droves, made it a cult classic. So why didn't you make a Black princess movie for our daughters yourself? But then you let Disney make the Black princess movie, and they disrespect us completely. They call it the fraud princess, So I'm not going to talk about that animalistic aspect of how they animalize the Black community. But more importantly, this Black princess, does she have a Black prince? No. She has, I think he was a Latino prince. All right.
You're right.
Yeah, the movie, there was no Black. So the first time, Black kids had no choice. But the first time they give us a Black princess, they don't give her a Black prince. And more important, and I can't be mad at them because we should have never let them make that movie. But we're so busy. Yeah, we're so busy trying to push our way into things as opposed to building our own. And we have the capability of doing so. We've been told we don't, but we do. Think all the things we do on the negative together. We can get together, gang bang. We can get together, gang bang, be Bloods and Crips, have an organization. So we can be gangster disciples and vice lords, have an organization, build a criminal empire. People like Larry Hoover and Jeff Ford built criminal empires, millions of dollars. And don't get me wrong, I'm not celebrating that. I'm just giving you the reality of the history of that.
What it is.
They built these criminal organizations. And we talking about we can't even build a daycare center. We can't build a chain of daycare centers to take care of our children. We can't get together these Black churches that collect all these tithes. I always find it funny. You look at the South Side of Chicago. All right, everybody wants to send their kids to Catholic schools because Chicago schools suck. So I'm gonna send my kids to Catholic school. But everybody, for the most part in the communities, is in Church of God of Christ, Baptist Church, Missionary Baptist Church, various Methodists, African Methodists. Well, what don't I see there? The Church of God of Christ is the largest African American denomination in the country, the largest denomination in inner city, most members. I have not seen a Church of God of Christ school. I see Catholic schools. We're not even going to the Catholic churches, but we expect we're going to go to their schools. We haven't built our schools. All the money the Church of God of Christ takes out the Black community.
Yep.
They built us one school. No. Yep. How about a hospital? Wow, the Catholics had the hospitals. They built hospitals in some of them in Black communities. So you can hate the Catholics all you want to, but the reality is they doing stuff that the black churches aren't doing. All right. The Nation of Islam isn't doing it. I ain't seen a Nation of Islam church. I think they have a small school in their building for, I believe, young men, I believe,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
nothing outside. And then what I'm saying when I say the churches, I'm not saying that we build Christian schools. I mean, they can be, non-denominational schools, but for the purpose of the community, it's not so much to indoctrinate people in a religion, but to educate our own. When we educated our own children after the Civil War, all right, when we educated our own, had our black schools, our students were brilliant. We turned that over. All right. What's the result we're getting in Chicago public schools? What's the result that we're getting in New York public schools? What's the result
Right.
that we're getting in Baltimore public schools?
That's
And
right.
then when I bring it up and say, why don't we do our own schools? Oh, yo, we can't do that.
We
No,
can't do that. They
we,
won't
we
let us do
can't.
it.
We won't let it. Well, and we've come to the position, like Mr. Hayes was saying, we have these rights. We're in a better position than our ancestors were when they walked off the slave
Absolutely.
field in
Absolutely.
1865. In
Absolutely.
1865, they walked off the slave fields with nothing, tattered clothes, literally walking out of the chain. All right, ripping pages from the Bible to teach their children to read because they wanted better for their children. And
Right.
this is I want to touch on this statement. I be hearing this statement. The young people be hollering. This just reflects their ignorance. The young people want to holler, "We are not our ancestors." When they want to act like how gangster they are, we're not gonna stand for. We're not our ancestors. No, you're not our ancestors because our ancestors were strong, so strong that you have the right to stand here and say those things. They endured. They taught their kids generationally to be more educated, to be better, to put them in a better situation. They sacrificed all. They built together as a group. They built together so much together. They built so well that white people kept tearing it down every time, and they kept rebuilding. All right, they came back from World War One, serving the country as citizens, like they should have. But then when they come back, they're treated as second class citizens, all right, denied rights, and they still endure. World War II, same thing. The people that came back from World War II are the ones that gave us that civil rights movement because they came back and said, okay, we ain't gonna fall for the banana in the tailpipe again like we did after World War One. This is what we want. And they started building again. All right. So
Right. Heard that.
that's my only point, regardless of where a person falls in the position of us as African Americans, whatever you are. I'm gonna say this: stop making excuses for why we can't do for self right now, why we cannot build together right now, why we cannot say, you know what, there is no, we need to build a school in this community. Church of God in Christ, we're gonna make a demand of you. We're the members of your church, and we pay our tithes and offerings every week that you want us to pay. You know, what's that one dude named uh, Jeremiah Wright? The other one that became the Baptist from the South Side that became Reverend Meeks. You know, you got your little private school. How about using your power and your political power in the community and build some schools in the community for the community that your church is in, for that community? How about these? If you go to Chicago, you throw a rock, you're gonna hit a Church of God in Christ. You throw a rock in a direction. You know, you hit a Church of God in Christ. You're gonna hit a liquor store. You're gonna hit a currency exchange. So when you throw that rock and you hit that Church of God in Christ, go knock on the door and say, "Hey, about y'all in this jurisdiction? How about y'all get together? You know, with them Baptists down the street and with these Methodists, you know, and let's build
No,
some
they don't
churches
believe
for these
you
kids."
can.
You know, let's build some daycares for our sisters so they don't have to leave their children at home. And in fact, let's build some daycares so we can educate our children while they're little. You know, get them ready for kindergarten. You know, where they coming in the door knowing things. Why don't we do that? But see, we don't think in that way. We think about walking up to policemen and yelling in their face and expecting something to change.
But we're gonna. That's why now's the time to do what Dr. King told us to do to cash that promissory note. Let me read something to y'all. That brother, that you everything you said, man. Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. You can't refute it. It's absolutely true. We just got to move. We got to do something with all that. Um, Check this out, Dr. King. I have a dream. It's hit me really hard the other day. I've been talking about it for years, but until something happens, you can read about in a book. You can hear somebody tell you about it. You can talk about it. You can quote it. But when you see it actually happen, you go, oh, so that's what that is. Listen to this, man. And think about today, what's going on right now in America today. Those who hoped that the Negro needed to blow off steam will now be content to blow off steam, will now be content, will have a rude awakening if the nation returns to business as usual. There will be neither rest nor tranquility in America until the Negro is granted his citizenship rights. The whirlwinds of revolt will continue to shake the foundations of our nation until the bright day of justice emerges. Brothers and sisters, I believe this is that. This is that. We have all the elements and the ingredients. All we've got to do now is raise the banner, make the clarion call, and all them young people, all of them out there, gonna lift their heads. One of the things we're doing out here on Venice Beach, we're gonna do it again tomorrow. And I told these kids come up, start talk with me, and they're gonna bring music out tomorrow. They're gonna bring flags out tomorrow, and we're gonna start teaching them what this is. That this is our moment that Dr. King prophesied. And I don't think we're ever going to get another shot at this again, Brother Richard. I think Sister Cynthia just said that this is that moment. So I don't know if we want to go any further, but there's more to be said. Oh, all right, I'm gonna give you one more. Okay. White kids. Okay. White kids. He said, the marvelous new militancy which has engulfed the Negro community must not lead us to distrust all white people. For many of our white brothers, as evidenced by their presence here today, have come to realize that their destiny is tied up with our destiny, and their freedom is inextricably bound to our freedom. Isn't that exciting? It's like, whoa. I like what Barack Obama said. I don't agree too much with Barack Obama, but what he said, we are the people that we have been waiting for. It's us. And I believe the natural laws of the universe, God created ADOS, y'all's movement. I know I'm ADOS too, we're all ADOS as far as the world, but y'all's movement, ADOS. And I've seen the fights and stuff back and forth. I watched it, and everybody's saying right things. It's like taking the puzzle, and the puzzle's all up in the air. Everybody's saying the right thing. Just gotta bring these puzzle pieces together. And I believe that if we get this one fundamental basic truth together, our super citizenship identity in this Constitution of the United States, back to the freaking basics, back to the foundation of this nation, my brothers and sisters, match point, game over. We better be ready to lead. We better be ready to lead. We better not get up there and talk all this postulating and this. Okay, how's that song go? How's it go? So, if I give it to you, what you gonna do with it? If I give it to you, what you gonna do with it? Huh? Richard? Well, here we go. We asked for it. It's like the white kids. I told them today. Said y'all went up there. You banged on your white daddy's door front at Wall Street. You called him all kind of mother effers and racist pig dog. You banged on that door, and the door opened, and it was not the butler. It was your daddy. Your daddy said to you, "What, punk? What do you want?" Mayors all across the country said, "What do y'all want?" And the white boys had nothing to say. I went down here to LA's Occupy Wall Street to speak. And I tried to explain to the young leadership there. I said, now look, man, y'all going out the corporation. You know how you going to get the corporation? I said, just 2 blocks away from you, Skid Row, all black people, homeless. You take that mantle and you hold that in your hands, and you walk up from all the media and you bang on that door. You say, "Daddy, It's your greed, Daddy. Your capitalist greed and racism that's created homelessness.
Yeah.
And this is what we want you to do, Daddy. But it's because they didn't know nothing to say. They get your white ass out my face, boy.
Ooh. Ooh.
But you know what though? This time, up from the slave quarters, we always look at, brother. You know the history. Every time this white man went out there and got himself into a fight with his white brothers over there in Europe or them colored yellow people over there in Asia, guess who was there with him at his back? Every freaking time we save him. They said it without Tuskegee Airmen, couldn't have done it. World War II. Without the Buffalo Soldiers, World War II, my dad is part of that. Without the Buffalo Soldiers, World War I, that turned the tide. All of that. See, that's who we are. We've done that for this country. And once again, it's going to be up to us to save the republic. Just like Lincoln said about the black troops, if it wasn't for the black troops, we would have lost the Civil War. It's up to us, y'all. This is our moment. I'm very, very pumped, and I thank you all for inviting me on the broadcast to share today.
Well, thank
and
you,
I hope.
Ted. Thank you.
One last thing. One last thing. I propose, apart from your own show here, that you guys host another time on a regular basis where we hold a class, a webinar. That's what y'all call it, where we invite other people and we walk through this and we get everybody get a copies of, go to the website to get the copy, and we walk through it and we begin to educate ourselves. Sponsored by ADOS. Y'all do that. What do you think? Is that a feasibility? We gotta start. We gotta start somewhere.
I have no problem. Matter of fact, I was going to say, why is there an echo? Oh, well, anyway, one of the things I was going to say is that I appreciate this conversation because, like, one of the things that I always push, especially since I've been activated in this whole space, is a political education. And I feel that a political education should start at who we are as a people, how we got here, and when we put those two together, we know what we're owed. And when you put those particular, like you said, like all these pieces are up in the air. And we're kind of like, I don't know. And now we got the people by the throat. Like, okay, so what is it that you want? But there's still a lot of us that don't know exactly how to articulate that because they're missing that piece of the political education. And I really and I agree with you. It starts with who we are in that 14th Amendment and that Civil Rights Act of 1866. I don't know if you all are familiar. I think that you're familiar. I don't know if you're familiar, Brother Richard. What happened with Byron Allen's case at in the Supreme Court?
I followed it.
I was really upset when they took that section. I think it was section 1982 of the Civil Rights Act of 1866 and put in that but-for clause that you had to, which made it way harder to prove racism when it came to like doing business and contracts, because you can't just say it's just a motivating factor if you don't necessarily want to do business. And these are the reasons why it is so important for us to really get a grasp of all these particular information when it comes to us and the laws that pertain to us and who we are in this country, and basically, and also get a very good understanding of how government works. And we can't hope for any type of change to come until we actually are able to articulate that and work within the process of government to make that happen. I time out for I'm not a big follower of celebrity or what's on BET or the Oscars or you know what I'm saying? Like I think I watch more YouTube than I do regular TV personally. Because I think that at this particular time in our lives, we really need to be able to shift our mindset, because we've been really focusing on the things that don't matter. And we really need to focus on, okay, if you're tired of the killing of these Black bodies, if you're tired of being a bottom caste, if you're tired of all these different things, you got to really understand how we got here. And then when you get tired, educate yourself. And that's why the 13% is here. That's why other shows like Breaking Brown is here, Tone Talks is here, other YouTubers and other people. And I know the ADOS Chicago is going to be doing some work around educational piece as well. And so, really hoping to speak with you further about that, Brother Ted, because it is so vital that we really get this political education, because as soon as we get this political education and start demanding what it is that we're supposed to get, we're definitely going to see a shift in how we are positioned in this country. So I really want to thank you for coming. I thank you for, answering the call. Like literally, I called you and was like, hey, hi, I'm Cynthia. You don't know me, but I don't know you. and,
Mhm.
and just agreeing just to be on the show and just really just giving us this like, wonderful education concerning the 14th Amendment and the Civil Rights Act of 1866 and the promissory note and how we fit in this, and even how we fit it, how this fits in the time that we are right now. And I want to plug your website. Ted, I did put it in the chat, and hopefully we can update the show notes to actually show that. So, like the work that Brother Ted is doing, if you guys want to support that, you can go to his website at tedhayes.us. That's TEDHAYES.us, and there is a support tab. I know that I will be supporting, so I would encourage you all to do that if you can, because he's really doing really great work, and he's really giving us something that we can chew on and actually take with us so that we can really, really go after this justice claim. This is absolutely important. So, yeah. And again, thank you for coming to the show. Richard, thank you for always for being, coming up with those thoughts. Really, really, really helped frame the conversation and
Absolutely.
yeah, all that. I really appreciate you both. So with that, again, thank you all for joining us on the 13%. Again, make sure you like this video, subscribe to YFNA News, hit that bell, make sure you get notifications every time we go live, and make sure that you be on the lookout for the next time that we come on. Until then, thank you and have a good evening.
Thank y'all.
Very
Thank
well.
you.
Peace.
Thank
People is not just walking up like they used to do in the past, walking out, shooting a man down or getting maybe 200 or 300 people carrying you out and lynching you, but it's in a more settled way. They can let you starve to death, not give you jobs. These are some of the things that's happening right now in Mississippi. See, Mississippi is not actually Mississippi's problem. Mississippi is America's problem. Because if America wanted to do something about what has been going on in Mississippi, it could have stopped by now. It wouldn't have been in the past few years between 40 and 50 churches bombed and burned. You see, and this lead me to say, all of the burning and bombing that was done to us and the houses, nobody never said too much about that, and nothing was done. But let something be burned, by a black man, and then, my God, you see, the flag is drenched with our blood, because you see, so many of our ancestors was killed because we have never accepted slavery. We had to live on it, but we've never wanted it. So we know that this flag is drenched with our blood. So what the young people are saying now, give us a chance to be young men, respected as a man, as we know this country was built on the black backs of black people across this country. And if we don't have it, you ain't gonna have it either, because we gonna tear it up. That's what they saying. And people ought to understand that. I don't see why they don't understand that. They know what they've done to us. All across this country, they know what they've done to us. This country is desperately sick, and man is on the critical list. I really don't know where we go from here.